Hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Steve Podzielny, Toxic Exposure Officer with the Phoenix Fire Department Health Center.
And I'm Scott Durkee, the Infectious Disease Officer for the Phoenix Fire Department Health Center. Today we'll be walking you through the online toxic exposure form step by step so you understand the process.
We're hoping to go live with this on February 26th, and we hope today that you'll spend a little time with us and learn how to access the form and fill it out online. Here we are at the FireWire page. Scott is going to demonstrate to you how to access the new online toxic exposure form, which will be coming out on February 26th. If you noticed on the right-hand side under links, there's a big red icon that says FirePoint. Go ahead and click on that, Scott. Now this is going to take you to the FirePoint page. Eventually this will replace the FireWire page, but for now we will still have the FireWire page and the FirePoint page until this is done in the construction phase. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different things to select from, but Scott is going to go to the bottom of the page and you're going to see a link to toxic exposure form under the health center. So Scott has clicked on that, and now he's at the toxic exposure form. On the top left-hand corner, you're going to notice that it says new item. Now this is what you're going to click when you want to fill out a new form. Okay, so Scott is actually on the exposure form now, and it's very similar to their old paper forms. It does have some mandatory fields. If you look on the left-hand side, you'll see little red asterisks on each item there, and those are mandatory fields that must be filled out, and you won't be able to close out the form until those are completed. Okay, go ahead and fill out your employee ID number, Scott. And then he's going to select the appropriate fire department. There we go, Phoenix Fire. Company assigned. Your shift. And then obviously incident number. Now if you don't know the incident number, you can always look that up on CAD or at the dispatch page from your printer. Incident date. Okay, now we get down to the incident occupancy exposure type, and we're going to select the appropriate one there. As you notice, there is one that says other. On this particular one, if there's not a typical incident like a structure fire or dumpster fire, car fire, etc., then you would select other, and then you can describe what that incident was in the box below, as Scott is doing. Okay. Now Scott, if you go back up to where you select the actual type of occupancy, you notice that you can either double click or you can highlight it and push add to get it over to the right side. So that's how you do that. Okay, we'll scroll down. If you happen to know the occupancy name or business name, that'd be great if you could type it in there. It is not a mandatory field. And just like our other forms, you'll have activities during exposure, what you were doing, and the amount of time at each thing you were doing or activity. Extinguishment. And this goes from less than an hour up to 3+ hours. So Scott's just going to fill in the appropriate times for each activity and move down. As you notice, he's just double clicking. And again, you could just highlight it and push the add tab as well to get it over there to the right side as well. Smoke densities, mandatory field. Smoke color, if you happen to notice, go ahead and add that. It's not mandatory. Now the next field I want to talk about just a few minutes, you'll notice a long list of chemicals there. Obviously, we're not always going to know what those chemicals are that are on scene. It could just be an ordinary house fire. Maybe you happen to notice some chemicals in the garage, pesticides or hydrocarbons or anything like that that could be added. Obviously, if it was like a chlorine leak or an ammonia leak, you would include those items there. If there's an ongoing investigation and we have lab results that are waiting to get back by the industrial hygienist, this is something that I can go back in and add to each individual's form later, as we will keep it open to add those things until the investigation is completed. If you have any questions on that, you can certainly call me. As we get more information from the investigation, we'll be notifying you by email and by a memo to department-wide email. As you notice here, routes of exposure, same as our old form, it is a mandatory field. And below that, you can indicate which body parts were exposed. The hands, neck, and face being the most common. Okay, and Scott's going to scroll down to list of symptoms. If you have a cough or sore throat or watery eyes or any of those kind of things, you can include that in there. Now you notice another mandatory field here. It says PPE worn during exposure. Obviously these items will be different for different members of the crew. Engineer may be just wearing brush gear as opposed to full turnouts. Another mandatory field is you see PPE malfunction. This is going to generate an automatic email to me if you do have a PPE malfunction to let me know so that we can follow up with you. Same with barrier breach. One of the improvements of this form is just better data plus being able to notify me if there is an issue. Okay, any circumstances that cause the failure, you can write in the box below there. And then of course, did you decon at the scene or at the station? Something that's real important to do. I think everybody's on the same page doing that. Medical treatment performed, yes or no. This is also a mandatory field. It'll also generate an email to me to let me know that you did get medical treatment and were evaluated. And then at the last box, it'll tell me where you were evaluated, at the hospital or at the incident. Now, as we scroll to the very bottom of the page, you'll see some red lettering. It says, when the form is completed, click on Save. If the form does not return to the list, please scroll up and look for the red text error message. So Scott is going to scroll up now, and he's going to show you if we did leave a field blank, it's going to notify us when you try to save it, and it won't allow you to close out. So he's going to scroll back up. He's going to scroll back up, and you'll see right there that it indicates that you must fill out this required field. So go back in and make the correction, and now you'll be able to save the form. So one last thing I wanted to show you guys. Under new item, you'll see a list that is populated. These are all the online exposure forms that you have filled out in history. And you will see that by incident date or incident number, you'll also see that it was reviewed and completed. So this is one that you actually can click on and see. The current forms that you now have in the electronic health record, which are the paper forms that we have been filling out, those will not be added to this list. They will still be available through the health center, through your EHR file. So let's go ahead and click on this and take a look at it real quick. This is actually the completed form, and down here you can see that you can print it off for your own records. Again, I want to thank you for your time today. I hope this helps explain the new system. Thank you for your patience as we transition into this new system. If you have any questions, you can contact me by email or through the health center. I'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.